Morning, everybody. I was afraid to speak there in case I was cut off by the music. Good morning, and you're very welcome to our event today. My name is Mary Cunningham, and I'm the CEO of the National Youth Council of Ireland. And we're here this morning to launch an important document for NYCI, for the youth sector and beyond. So today we're launching the Climate Justice Charter, and I'm absolutely delighted that you could join us. So I'm going to explain a little about the flow of this morning's event, and then just do a little introductory piece before I hand over to the key people of the day, the young people who have developed the charter, to take us through the rest of the event. I was due to tell you that it's been recorded, but you'll already know that by this stage. So we have a really packed programme this morning. We're going to start off, as I say, with just some introductions to the event. We're then handing over to the Future Generation Consortium, initially to Eleanor and to Alana, who participated in the Future Generations project, and to Mick Farron, our partner from Sphere 17, who will outline just the Future Generations project, the value that we experienced in terms of working alongside young people, working with their kind of youth workers and heads of organisations directly, and looking at just what they've managed to achieve in a relatively short time. We will outline the vision for the Climate Justice Charter, and then there's the opportunity to go into breakout rooms so that you have the opportunity to discuss what you've heard, the Charter, and what you see as how you might implement it in your own organisation. And you'll have a Padlet where you can write up all your exciting ideas and comments, and then we'll feed back into plenary. And we plan to close off on time round about 12 noon. So you're going to hear much more about this particular charter shortly. But first of all, kind of a bit of a pot history in terms of charter. Firstly, what is a charter? It's a formal document which describes the values and aims, the principles and beliefs of an organisation or a group of people. And it often outlines a range of commitments that signatories agree to advance. The word charter comes from the Latin word charta, meaning paper, card, or map. And I suppose for us, it's the map element of it that is so important. And we'll be outlining the features of our map for you shortly. Charters have been with us for a very long time. One of the ones that people may have heard of is the Magna Carta, or the Great Charter, which was actually written in 1215 and was arguably the most significant early influence on the extensive historical process that led to the rule of constitutional law today in the English-speaking world. In history, New York was given a charter by the British monarch in the 17th century, guaranteeing it certain rights in exchange for goods and services. And today, many large corporations still have charters that govern their behaviour. One of the most well-known charters, I think, is the UN Charter. The Charter of the United Nations, the founding document of the United Nations, came into force in 1945 at the end of the Second World War. Originally, it had 51 members, and Ireland joined in 1955. And today it has 193 members. So we hope, in the same way, that our charter gathers momentum, and that very significant numbers of organisations and individuals sign up to it in due course. The Charter of Fundamental Rights of the European Union brings together the most important personal freedoms and rights enjoyed by citizens of the European Union into one legally binding document. That charter was declared in 2000 and came into force in December 2009, along with the Treaty of Lisbon. And the purpose of the charter being to promote human rights within the territory of the EU. So charters can be international, they can be country specific, they can be thematic, they can be industry-wide, or they can be company specific. But they all have the following things in common. They outline a shared vision, a set of shared values, principles or beliefs, and they tend to include a set of actions that the signatories to the charter commit to implement. They're a wonderful way to strengthen and protect the fundamental principles enshrined in them. They can clarify our position and establish a roadmap to achieving specific outcomes. And it's a great way to capture commitments and accountability. And I suppose most importantly, it builds solidarity around that vision, values, and particularly the roadmap that will help us achieve the vision. And now to hear a little bit more about our charter, I am going to hand over to both Ilana and Eleanor, and I think it is Eleanor who's going to kick off to tell us about who the Future Generation team are and what they're all about. So handing over to you, Eleanor.
Thank you very much, Mary, and a warm welcome to everyone joining us today. My name is Eleanor. I'm with YMCA Ireland, and I'll be giving a bit of background information, some of the collaborations and events, and my experience with Future Generations to date. Future Generations is a collaborative project led by the National Youth Council of Ireland, or NYCI, and containing members and youth workers from Macra na Ferma, Sphere 17 Regional Youth Facility, YMCA Ireland, and One Planet for All Concerned worldwide. The project is funded by the Department of Children, Equality, Disability, Integration and Youth and Irish Aid and One Planet for All Concerned worldwide. This is Future Generation's second year, and it aims to explore and raise awareness about systemic and human rights issues in relation to the climate crisis. It creates a discussion space with particular emphasis on the voices and opinions of young people from marginalized, rural, and/or disadvantaged backgrounds. It focuses on the empowerment and education of these young people and facilitates global responses by including youth voices from the global south. Throughout the project, we've had knowledge sessions about individual versus collective action, intergenerational climate justice, agriculture, energy production, COP26, and most recently, youth-led solutions. We've had events directly connecting with EirGrid and the Malawi Youth Network Climate Network. My personal experience with this project in the last year has been absolutely incredible. The staff at NYCI have been amazing. I've learned so much from the knowledge sessions, and the workshops and events have been outstandingly insightful. It's really reshaped my perspective on climate justice, even though I felt I had a good understanding of the topic coming into this project. I guess it just goes to show that there's always more to learn. For example, did you know that if you, an individual, cut all carbon emissions from your lifestyle for as long as you lived, or around 70 years, you would save only 1 second of global emissions? The term carbon footprint was coined by British Petroleum, or BP, to take pressure off themselves. This kind of information is so important. Talking about greenwashing, the manipulation of individuals into alleged eco-friendly choices is vital in our efforts to move forward and be productive environmentally. In our conference with EirGrid, alongside other young people, I was told about plans for areas of renewable energy development. We submitted polls on where we would direct technological advances and infrastructure. I felt heard, and it was fascinating to be so directly connected to such a central Irish company. We've since received word that EirGrid will be putting together their own youth panel to consult about energy generation in the future, which is really promising. In our meeting on agriculture, we discussed effective farming techniques, both in Ireland and with farmers from Malawi. It was great to have contrasting perspectives, but the overwhelming common theme was how to use land effectively. A common claim is that farmland is overused for livestock, but the uncomfortable truth is that, especially in Ireland, our soil type and quality is better suited for this kind of agriculture, and to change so suddenly would leave our food production and economy struggling. All changes to better our climate are multi-layered, and while simple, strong ideas are a great starting point, Future Generations help shape these into tools for change. No example is clearer than our Climate Justice Charter. I'll pass you over to Mick Farron from Sphere 17, who's done exceptional work on helping this charter come to fruition, to tell you more about it. Thank you.
Eleanor, thanks very much. I was thinking to myself, why did I have to follow Eleanor? I mean, how do you follow that? And impressed right up till you said I had done exceptional work. So yeah, no, you lost me there. Look, I'm just going to talk to people a little bit, I suppose, from the perspective of a youth service provider and the value of the charter and maybe how it can connect with our work. So like many other youth organizations and projects, we have a charter that sets out how we work with young people and why that's important to us. So what we stand for and what we strive for. And it's, you know, a key part of it is that it's a public document or a statement, and it's put in a pride of place in our centres, and we often use it in our discussions with young people every day. And I guess as a society, I mean, we are all hearing more and understanding more about the impact of climate change on our planet, on our people, and it's increasingly evident that that impact affects people differently. And I guess in the area of youth work and youth service provision, we're particularly interested in our responsibility to facilitate young people to learn more about themselves, about the world around them, and to make positive change. And I guess there's hardly a greater priority right now for young people, indeed for everyone, you know, than addressing some of these issues that come up as part of the climate justice issues. So I would say that, you know, at the very least, you know, those of us who have a responsibility to provide services and youth work facilities to young people, we have a moral obligation to ensure that this focus continues, the education, the awareness, the discussions, and I mean, as you can see, this is very much something that's can be led out by young people, and indeed, when it comes to attending the Future Generation steering groups and seminars, I'm finding it's hugely informative, and I think people will agree with that. So, you know, you'll note and perhaps discuss a little bit more that the set of principles that have been kind of set out in this charter, they provide, I would say, the youth work sector with an opportunity maybe to set out that what we stand for in relation to responding to climate justice issues. And when this first came to me in a draft format and we brought it to the board committee that was looking into it, we were hugely impressed with what had been put together. And then very quickly, I suppose, we started to talk about, well, how do we action this? What does this look like in our service, in our work with young people? And in some respects, we needn't have been too concerned, because very quickly afterwards, I was delighted to see that there was a resource pack. Talk about making our work easy. And that resource pack helps us, I suppose, translate those principles into meaningful actions with young people. And I think people here will appreciate that, notwithstanding the admirable lofty intent of principles in charters, a real measure of the value of a charter is in the action that it generates, the individual and collective action that it generates. And it is really encouraging to see that in the resource pack, there are very tangible ways and templates and suggestions and programs that can be put in place relatively easily in youth service projects and kind of youth work settings and beyond. So, I mean, I guess I was, again, really impressed with the work of the Future Generations Project, and in particular the young people at the helm. And I do feel that there is an opportunity here for youth service providers in our, I guess, across the country here, to take the opportunity to facilitate discussions with staff and with young people about these issues. But it's critically important, as you can gather from just these, you know, first few minutes of this seminar, that we listen to what young people have to say as well, and learn from them and get a sense from their perspective what the priority actions are. So just I'd like to thank NYCI for this opportunity, and hand you over now to Alana.
Yeah, hi, thanks. Yeah, so I'm going to be talking to you, I suppose, a tiny bit about the charter itself and kind of, I suppose, our involvement really in it as young people. So yeah, I suppose I got involved in the charter through the YMCA and through being part of the Future Generations project. And I suppose and the NYCI kind of got onto us and asked if there was any young people interested in making a charter like this. So I signed up along with, I think we had 2 people from 3 or 17, and we had another one from the YMCA. And we all kind of joined together for some of those like initial meetings, and then we kind of also brought it back to our group as well. So there was a lot of people kind of involved, some more directly and some kind of less so. But yeah, I suppose what stood out to it for me was that kind of young people from the very beginning were kind of invited to give their opinions and ideas, and it really did feel like we were kind of effectively building this charter, which was very exciting. I suppose, yeah, from the beginning, we were included from talking about what ideas we wanted included, I suppose, in the very bones of the charter, to receiving draft copies and being involved in kind of editing and design. And I suppose even that process, I think it speaks to the idea that young people all have very different skills, very different ideas. We all have different backgrounds. We see the world very differently. And I think that we're often kind of grouped into just one kind of section, but we're very much kind of individuals within that as well. And I think the creation of the charter, that process kind of very much recognized it. You know, whether you're more of a writer or a speaker or an artist or whatever it is, I feel like that was appreciated. Again, as I said, we all are coming here from different backgrounds, and we're all coming here with different experiences. And I think the fact that in the end, the charter was able to speak to all of us was very, very powerful. I mean, I think there's certain principles that will stick out to different individuals in different ways. But the fact that I think personally, I can look at that charter and bring it back very easily to my own life, and I suppose see a bit of myself in it, and I know other young people feel the same way. I think it's hard to pick out favorites out of all the principles, but one of the biggest ones for me is definitely creating effective partnerships. I think, I don't know how much everybody here knows about the Sustainable Development Goals, or if you have a favorite, but mine is definitely partnerships. I think everyone should have a favorite, and for me, that is it. I feel like with the world now, it is easy to kind of become divided between kind of the different generations, and farmers and activists like me from a farming background, that definitely sticks out for me. You know, I feel like it's easy for there to be more divisions now between different sets of people for different reasons, and that makes partnership more important than ever, especially as the world becomes more globalized. I think I love how the different, I suppose, principles in the climate justice charter kind of interconnect with each other. For me, like, again, partnerships are so important, but you can't have partnerships without supporting people to the right to speak and be heard, and that's then our second principle. So yeah, for me, it's so important that young voices are heard, and that young people are given the invitation to speak and be heard, and they feel that they are being respected in that. Education is another principle, using education for climate stewardship. For me, I often feel that schools maybe don't give young people the kind of education that they really need to be able to get up and go into the modern world and kind of face it in the best way possible. That's why, like, informal education through groups like the YMCA have been so important to me. You know, they've really inspired and motivated me and made me see the world, I suppose, from a different perspective. That feeds in then to another one of our principles, which is ensuring local to global connections. And again, you know, through the YMCA, I've been able to, I suppose, look at the world from a global perspective. From, even Eleanor talked about this really well, but meeting groups from Malawi, I've also heard from groups from Kosovo, from Colombia. It's made me change the way that I see the world, and it's made me change the way that I look at my local community, and also more globally. I'm not going to go through all the principles, but they're all so important to me in different ways and for different reasons. But yeah, I suppose going on from there, what's required for organizations when you're actually signing up to the charter, it's only open to organizations, not individuals. And I suppose the whole idea behind that is to support a kind of all organization embodiment of the climate justice principles. We are basically asking that a decision-making body of an organization sign up to the charter and make sure that those principles do influence the whole organization, and not just a climate justice project. It will be different for each organization how you implement the charter. We ask, I suppose, that you look at your own organization and think about how best these principles can be implemented for you. And it will depend, you know, on the people you work with, who it is you're trying to empower. But there's a really strong youth element within this charter, which I'm very excited about. But I suppose more information will be then kind of sent to the organisation once an expression of interest is received, and that can be done on our website. And I know the link is going to be posted in the chat, so keep an eye out for it. But yeah, I suppose it'll be quite a collaborative process between the NYCI then and your organisation, where you discuss how the charter will be implemented. And all that we kind of ask of you after that then is that you commit to participating in a kind of a yearly short survey. And that will then go on to support us in understanding how your organisation is continuing to implement the charter. And I suppose also helping us to grow its impact and potential within different organisational structures. So exciting news, the YMCA, my organisation, have actually already committed to the charter, which was brilliant. They did it very quickly. But I was one of the people, along with Amy O'Brien, who actually presented to the board, and we talked to them about what the charter was and kind of what I've talked to you about now, I suppose, really why the principles stand out to us, why they're important for us personally, but also, you know, as young people, we feel that all young people are being represented by it. And they were very supportive, and it was brilliant, and we didn't get a huge amount of pushback on accepting it or anything like that, and we felt very, I suppose, included. So yeah, it was a very positive experience. And I suppose, like, within the YMCA, we have, I suppose, a lot of support between, like, I know TJ now and Maya Kelly are two names that stick out for me. But there's just such a support group. And again, I suppose I feel like that comes back again into the idea of partnership and working together to ensure that youth voices are heard. So I suppose, yeah, again, it'll be different for every organisation, kind of how you implement the charter or how it goes through getting your boards involved or into accepting it. But I think that, you know, it's always an idea to get young people at the table as well, and talking to the boards and getting them fully involved. And it's very empowering for the young people, and I think it's good for the organisation as well to see, you know, the people that are behind this. So from there, I'm going to pass on, and I think we're going to start into breakout rooms now, actually, and I hope you'll get a chance to discuss kind of everything that we've been talking about.
So we're going to put you into breakout rooms for, I'd say, about 15 minutes. Is that right? Yeah. To discuss two questions. So firstly, if you can see any challenges with implementing this charter, and secondly, if there are challenges for you, what kind of supports do you think you'll need? So you can put your ideas and thoughts into a Padlet, the link for which will be sent to a chat, and you'll get a time warning when there's a minute left in the breakout rooms. But to make sure that you have key points ready, and if we could have a speaker nominated from each group, from each breakout room, to give feedback when we close the breakout rooms, that would be amazing. So are there any questions? Do you want me to go over anyone? The questions for discussion, or will we just put you into breakout rooms now? I will take the silence as they're ready. So
Alana, just before you speak, I want to come in really quickly. Welcome back from the breakout rooms, everybody. I popped around to most of you at some point, and I saw a couple of questions come through that were very similar from each group, so I just wanted to address her. Pass it over to Alana.
Sorry, Emer, the chat button is right beside the recording pause button. Sorry, fumble there.
No problem. Alana, I'll pass it over to you to take feedback.
Yeah, so hi, we're back again. What I'm going to do now is, if I could get one person from each group to actually just give a bit of feedback about what you were discussing. I was in one of the groups, so I'll let someone from my group start, actually, if they want to just come in and say a little bit about what we were discussing, and we'll do each group then.
We never picked someone to talk. we were talking so much. I don't know, does anybody else want in the group, or will I do it? Dermot, are you happy for me? Oh yeah, you're right.
Well, I think you picked yourself, Sinead.
This is the joys of hating, because I'm like, oh, please
Exactly.
don't answer. No, but I am happy to feedback. It was a very good group, and we had a lot to discuss. And I think for me, and I've been adding to the Padlet, the main thing that came out of it was, I suppose, that sometimes there's a lot of challenges in actually approaching your board or the management with something new, something like this that it is new for a lot of organizations. Or, you know, we talked about even the wording of climate justice, climate change, and, you know, that sometimes there can be confusion around all that. We also thought that it would be amazing if it could continue to be a youth-led process, that, you know, that we support our young people to actually, and I know, Alana, that's what they did at the YMCA, that they presented the charter to their board, that they you know, explained what it was, and that, you know, they found that a really good experience. And we thought that would be, because we you know, some of us that work with young people, there is a lot of young people out there who are really passionate about this, who really want to, you know, get their organizations on board. So that passion is there. So I think, again, there's support needed. The group felt that it might be, and Emer has kind of touched on it already, there might be support needed on just explaining what a charter is, explaining what this one in particular is, and that there might be, we thought what would be really useful would be training for boards on, you know, climate justice, that it might be something that they're interested in already, that, you know, that it can be offered to them. And really sorry, I just need to go back to the Padlet. I think, you know, again, the challenges on the process of setting it up, but also the more important, the challenges of ensuring that it's continued. Who's responsible for it within the organizations, and how, like, we thought that what could be good is a process, a mapping process, or a plan, which, again, Emery has talked about, that, you know, a specific plan on how to embed this in the organizations and to take it on board and show that it's positive and that it is something that's good. So I think that was the gist of ours, Alana. I don't think, did I forget anything important, or anyone else, Tony or Dermot, or anyone else want to come in there? You're more than welcome.
Yeah, no, I think you hit on everything. I might go to breakout room 1 next. I'm aware some of you might know what breakout room you were in, so I can name out the names if that helps. But if breakout room 1.
I'm for breakout room 1.
Perfect.
So like our discussion was mainly about how do you put the chart in practice, because now obviously depends on the organizations, but there are already a lot of organizations that will be on board, you know. So I don't think that, you know, a lot of boards will be against the chart, because there are a lot of things that we are already doing. So by principles are, you know, things that we agree. So it's not that, it's just how do you put that in practice. So we were kind of suggesting, like, maybe to make it super easy. I know that there are 3 resources already, but to make it really like clear, like, you know, principle 1, where do you look, what are the possible action? So not for the organization to look into the 3 different resources, because that will create problems, you know. Or better, it's not that will create problems, it will be always the same youth workers doing that, you know. So we need to get to the youth workers that are not into global education, into global citizenship yet, you know. So it needs to be very easy to follow, you know. So that maybe if it's something like, even just to say, look, you need to check for principle 1, this resource and this possible action. So then they go and check them. So as easy as possible. And then another thing that came up was, okay, in relation to the UBU projects, I know that Valerie's already going around giving workshops in how the UBU can do you know, this kind of work, but will be also interesting to link to the charts, because, you know, the UBU projects are the ones that are a bit more strict on what they can do. So it's like, how do you link the chart on what can be done in the UBU will be very good. And the last things was about monitoring and implementing it. So it's like, okay, the board agrees. How can we, how do you monitor that that's actually happened? So if there are templates, or if there is way that it's already kind of written what you need to keep checking, because, sometimes happen is always the same people doing the same things. So we want a whole organization. So who is in charge of the monitoring? How do you evaluate? And how do you report on that? So that kind of thing. I think did I forget anything else? My fellow room 1 people. Oh, okay.
All good. No, I think that's a common theme that's kind of coming up, making sure that with the organization, it is a very continuous process, that it's being constantly kind of, I suppose, monitored and checked, that it isn't just kind of a one sign off thing. But yeah, okay, breakout room 2 next, whoever is nominated there.
I'm Debbie. I was in room 2. I suppose similar to Sinead, what Sinead has mentioned, I work with Mead Partnership in Kells, and I've recently joined the team, so I didn't know where my voice would fit into the organisation, because it's something I'd love to work on. I do a lot of climate change projects, Erasmus Plus funded projects, but I didn't know how we could get the Board of Management on board to, I suppose, implement this into our own policies. So that was kind of one part of our discussion. And then another part of it was on schools. How would you embed this charter into schools, and what type of approaches you take? But as Sinead said, it was more or less the same directed conversation.
Brilliant. Okay, breakout room 3 next, I think.
I'm 3, Alana. Hi, everybody.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So I suppose we looked at, the first thing we looked at was both a challenge and a support. We felt that, we felt that it was really important to understand, that there's young people at different levels, young staff at different levels, volunteers at different levels. And while that seemed like a challenge, it also seemed that that's actually where the solution could be, that we would just acknowledge that and build the supports in that way. Then I suppose one of the next things we spoke about was linking climate justice and climate action with biodiversity. And I suppose an idea was that possibly we could link the principle, create a resource that would link the principles more with the Sustainable Development Goals. And I suppose within that conversation, I suppose we were just very, we were sharing experiences about how we engage these principles in real life, just at the difficulty there. And I suppose a reminder to ourselves not to be overwhelmed. I mentioned one of the supports that works well for us in the YMCA is a mechanism. We have a Global Justice and International Development Group, various stakeholders in the organization, but it allows us to have a dedicated space to trash out all of this, identify priorities and try and get 1 or 2 of those through. And perhaps that's how the charter got in as quick as it did. That was already in place, and the conversation was already in place. We looked at, I suppose we just had a quick reminder about what global justice is, and just that it's important for us to understand that our starting point is this unfair, unequal society, and that if we're not looking through that social justice lens, then we're not doing the obligation that the Charter is asking us to follow. And then one of the suggestions, just to finally, that perhaps following the survey as part of this process, there might be an opportunity to take substantial action. Like we might be able to identify an action that we would like to take, and then we could match those suited, like they could choose if they want to pursue that. I suppose it's just a very nice point to end on, because it reinforces your favorite, Alana, the partnership approach, and that being one of the incredible strengths of future generations. That consortia, I know we couldn't have achieved anything anywhere near like on our own if we hadn't been together with the partners. So that's us.
Brilliant. Thanks so much.
Can I just ask a question?
Absolutely.
Because I got in on group 3 right at the end, so we're sort of, I would have probably asked this in the small group, but I'm curious to know what others think. We're just at the beginning of a new strategic plan that should last us the next 5 years, or whatever. And I'll put my cards on the table. I would love it if climate justice was an important part of that strategic plan. I think it's clear that it should be. But one thing that I'm not real clear in my own mind, and I'm curious what other people would think, would climate justice be better as its own pillar of a strategic plan, like over here we do our climate justice things, or would it be better as like a cross-cutting priority across all other things? And I can kind of think of pros and cons on both sides, but as we integrate this charter into our actual strategy to actually do it, do you all think it would be better grouped as its own strategic priority? Or do you think it would be better kind of applied to all other strategic priorities?
I think this is a really interesting question. And I think it really highlights in a lot of organizations where problems can start to occur. As tempting as it may be to treat this as a separate issue, a lot of the problems arise from treating climate justice as something that is separate, that cannot be integrated into everything, when in actuality, it's an underlying theme across the board, across everything. So the best way to move forward would be to implement this charter in as many different aspects of your action plan as you possibly can. See where the connections are. And this won't just help you with this specific charter, it will help you fulfill more climate justice goals if your organization chooses to go that route going forward. Because when you treat climate justice as something that is separate, you immediately disassociate and you're already putting yourself on the back foot.
Wow, that was a really articulate and well-prepared answer. It almost seems as if we set that up ahead of time, which we didn't.
To be honest, I will say both, if I could say. Like, I think it should be on its own strategic pillar to show the commitment, and then in the pillar to actually write that is actually goes through all the different other strategic pillars that you have. So it's kind of, you give the spotlight, but then you're actually stating that is an underlying issue that needs, you know, a whole organization approach in everything that you do. But that's would be
a clever answer, both.
That was going to be my answer too, both actually. Yeah, no, I love what Eleanor said about embedding it, you know, throughout the organization, and like something about the world now. And again, the principles that I think you can say, like, they're all so interconnected, and all the challenges we're facing now, you know, in terms of youth participation, but just across the world, I think you can really see that kind of interconnection, which is why, like, it's great to be able to apply it across the board. But I love as well what was said about giving it its own spotlight, and I think it's important that there is a spotlight kind of put on it as well, and that's like both would be the ideal answer, I think, for me as well. So going on from that, unless anyone else wants to jump in, I think we were breakout room 4, so it's either breakout room 5 or 6 now, I think.
I'm not sure what breakout room we were, Alana.
I think you were 6. I don't think we had a 5 actually. I think we skipped the 5, so I think it's straight to 6.
Okay, so I'm conscious of time, and actually I'm like Sinead, quick to jump in to fill the spaces, but I'm very happy for someone else from our group to speak to it. So the people in our group were Lee and Gillian, Chris and Bernie.
No takers, no.
There you go, Lee.
That was too long of an uncomfortable silence there. I'm starting to sweat. Yeah, no, fair enough. Mary, I know you did a lot of the kind of the taking notes and stuff. But I mean, like, I'm just going to go through like the panel, I suppose, in terms of, like, you know, the different questions and stuff. I won't spend too much time on the favorite dinosaur one. There's some interesting ones there. There was one, I think, actually, that we might have missed, or maybe I missed the how do we link climate justice to mitigating actions like climate change and the biodiversity crisis in small organizations? That was just below the dinosaur questions. We can get to that. But in terms of the challenges and stuff, just like I suppose the challenge of making the link between climate justice and social justice for organizations, maybe gain an understanding of the justice side of things. Sorry there, I'm just gonna. Sorry guys, I'm just trying to I'm trying to navigate this Padlet here, but it's not really kind of working for me here at all. Oh, here we are. Sorry, yeah. Just all the colors are kind of blending in, yeah. Just in terms, so the challenge, so basically the challenge is like so the need like a lot of people to drive it forward, maybe like especially in maybe some of the bigger organizations, maybe when there's a few different, you know, maybe like Sphere, for example, like there's different kind of centers in Sphere, so it's kind of, we're not just kind of, you know, the one center, so we need a kind of a lot of people to maybe to get on board. You need a lot of buy-in across the organization and stuff, and then like if there's kind of any sort of reporting on it, maybe like that could be an extra workload for people. They might think that, like, you know, alongside other reporting demands. Then the challenge around understanding the language of the charter, like so recognizing different levels of young people, staff, volunteers in this, so support programs and actions for youth service organizations should reflect this, and that they are pitched at the right level to engage everyone. So basically, you know, so the language there, like Gillian mentioned, like there was a kind of jargon buster that we had when we did the project last year, around climate justice, and that was the kind of, you know, just breaking down some of the, you know, some of the terms, and, you know, just some of the kind of like concepts, like to make it a little bit easier for everybody to maybe to understand and to get into. And then another challenge I was linking climate justice to climate action and biodiversity, and support needed could be resourced, linking climate justice directly to the SDGs. So that'd be useful. Like obviously, so the 17 SDGs, you know, obviously that they're already kind of like, you know, people kind of they don't know the whole lot of them, but they're kind of, you know, they're faced with it on a day-to-day basis in their lives. You know, they're hearing about it from, so everybody has some opinion on at least, you know, one or two of these SDGs. So, and young people, you know, as much as anybody would have that, like, you know, through linking with the youth service, linking with schools and stuff. Multinationals, another issue. Multinationals have a significant effect and role in this work we're doing, has a cumulative effect on creating a movement in the youth sector, trying to improve everything in terms of compliance. So education, stewardship, formal education sector needs to take a lead on a lot of this work as well. What kind of supports then we're saying we might need as well? Sorry there now. So training and information for, you know, maybe management, or for those who really haven't been involved in this process, maybe over the last couple of years as well. Maybe smaller organizations that don't have the resources, you know, maybe might need a little bit of kind of help in terms of, you know, maybe buddying up with some of the orgs that like to have. And then obviously, you know, the support from NYCI as well, which we would have got, like, you know, with our involvement over the last couple of years, we would have got support from, through Valerie Eamer. Maybe for those who want to maybe get involved in it, but don't really know where to start. And then like that sharing experiences and kind of practice then between organizations, which is important, which is actually, you know, this is how the charter actually came to be in the end. Like, you know, like obviously it was something that couldn't have been done, like, you know, by one org. It was a real kind of team effort, and I think that's important for, you know, for getting more people involved in it as well. Went through the jargon buster. Yeah, go-to person as well. Obviously, it's just some kind of link. Obviously, we've had Valerie and Eamer there, so probably no doubt that the workload is going to increase for Valerie and Eamer as well now, as kind of more organizations, you know, get on board with that as well. But sure, look, I suppose it's part of it as well. And then the resource, I suppose, linking the kind of actual, you know, the principles to, you know, to maybe just give some people some ideas around how they might start getting involved. But the principles are there, obviously, but the resources, obviously, it's great there. Because it's you know, it kind of gives a bit of a guide to people about how they might actually, you know, start implementing, you know, the climate justice charter in the organization, and particularly those maybe, like I said, who haven't, you know, had maybe experience in this kind of consortium for the last couple of years as well. And then we had any other comments. Then it was just yeah, we had a point of contact, which I mentioned already. Partnerships outside the youth sector would be really valuable as well. Obviously, kind of expanding that out as well. outside of our own kind of like, you know, little kind of world here, I suppose. And recognizing there's lots of knowledge that can be mined from external partnerships in that as well, like so. And then media coverage as well for the charter, or you know, some sort of promotion of it, like kind of outside of this, you know, kind of like group. I know it's been put up across social media the last couple of days, and people have been sharing it as well. But maybe just getting it kind of, you know, shared wider, or acknowledged, or yeah, just in the wider community, wider world as well, just to kind of get it out there as well. And because as much as we can kind of contact people and you know, within our sector, you know, the more you advertise stuff, yeah, the more kind of, you know, interest is kind of piqued. People are thinking like, what's all that about? And there's probably many organizations out there that would like to get involved in this kind of sort of thing. So yeah, so that was mostly, there's more stuff there, but I won't kind of bore you with me talking on and on. So yeah, that was it.
Brilliant, thanks. I think we've done everyone now. If anyone has anything else to say, obviously just jump in, or any other questions, pop them into the chat and we'll get back to you. But for now, I'm going to pass on to Mary, I think.
Thank you very much, Alana, and thanks everybody, and thank you, Lee. Sorry for smoking you out like that, but you did a fine job. We have a Menti poll. Okay. So hopefully people can see on the screen that on your phone, you go to www.menti.com. You've got a code 17246180. So we'll just take a minute to do that. Okay, colleagues, if we're happy to move on, and thank you very much for that. I think some really strong messages coming through there in terms of the importance of it being youth-led, about working in partnership, and delighted to see that close to half of the participants are very likely to sign up to the charter, and that none of them have said they're not likely. So I think that's really good for us to have people who are good to go and people who are open to learning a bit more and to finding ways of doing it. So we're now going to move on to the actual launch.
Climate change is undeniably the defining issue of our time. It affects us all globally, but not equally. While the climate crisis is considered an environmental issue, it is also deeply rooted in an unsustainable economic system. The current system values excessive growth, consumption, and creates a wealth-based global divide. And today, those contributing least to the climate crisis are paying the highest price. We need to come together to shift this narrative and put fair, equitable justice at the heart of our fight against climate change. This system change will require massive public support, and so we're calling upon organisations and institutions to join the movement. This is why the Future Generations Project created the Climate Justice Charter. Taking care of our Earth is about every decision and action we make as a collective. By coming together, we can build solutions that work for everyone. Want to know more about what's involved? Here are the 7 key climate justice principles we need to uphold. 1. Respecting and protecting human rights. We need to take a human rights-based approach to climate justice. How we respond to the climate crisis can enhance or undermine the rights of people around the world, today and in the future. We must work together to build inclusive solutions that ensure everyone's basic needs are met. 2. Empowering all voices. When certain voices are left out of the conversation, the results are not inclusive. We must empower and support vulnerable and marginalised communities to speak and be part of decisions on climate change. 3. Acting equitably rather than equally. When it comes to climate justice, nobody should be left behind. We must work with those who need support the most and ensure that decisions on climate change are transparent and inclusive. 4. Opposing any form of discrimination. We must confront all forms of discrimination and oppression related to gender, sex, race, age, religion, class, and livelihood to create a world based on acceptance, equity, and peace. 5. Using education for climate stewardship. Education that supports critical thinking and reflection can equip future generations with the values, skills, behaviours, and knowledge required to take informed action towards climate justice. 6. Creating effective partnerships. Collaboration and transparency are key components of our climate justice movement. Working together will be critical to deliver on our Sustainable Development Goals, climate action plans, and youth policies. 7. Ensuring local to global connections. We aim to support and promote local to global connections and worldwide solidarity in our collective fight towards climate justice. 100 years from now, the youth will read about those of us who stood up and spoke up to demand bolder, swifter action. We have an opportunity to change course now and advocate for a greener world that is fair, just, and inclusive. This is it. It's in our hands. To sign up or learn more about our Climate Justice Charter, visit www.youth.ie/Climate Justice Charter.
Thank you very much. That was absolutely excellent. Really excellent excellent video, and I hope that people are able to use it. It's on our website, as you can see, and we'll perhaps include a link to it in our digital goodie bag as well. I'm very conscious of time, and so I just want to move now to say a few thanks. I mean, before I do that, I think for me, some of the very strong messages that came across today is, first of all, climate justice is youth work. No question about it. That it isn't something that you do your youth work and then do climate justice, but I think every aspect of it, in terms of, you know, the personal development of the young people, which we heard about so eloquently, you know, from Eleanor and Alana, that focus on the wider world that we talked about, the fact it's action focused, really is what good youth work is all about. And I suppose one of the things that really struck me was it is also about youth workers and volunteers not accepting that they're not the experts, you know, in this, and actually working alongside young people, you know, that they learn to get together. And I was particularly struck when David Backhouse asked the question in relation to his strategic plan, and the first person in to answer that in a really eloquent and informed way was a young person. So, you know, we just need to give young people the space and the opportunity, and we can follow or we can walk alongside. But I think it's an excellent opportunity to demonstrate you know, young people's voice at its very, very best. It just remains for me to do a few thank yous. As Emer said, there is a digital goodie bag which will be sent to everybody who is on, who has, you know, signed up for this. So everybody who attended will receive an email after the event that will link them directly to the new charter, where they can download it, read it and discuss it. And I think one of the things that's really clear to me as well is that the process is as important as the product. So it isn't just a case of printing it off and getting it signed in an organization, but to use it to stimulate those conversations, I think, where we're talking about embedding it in organizations. And that's really what it's going to need, not just to sign the charter, but to implement it and to act on it. I want to particularly thank Alana, Eleanor and Mick, who input today. I want to thank all of the organisations who participated in the Future Generations project. We were all learning by doing, you know, good youth work, and I think every single organisation, including MYCI, has gained a lot from being part of that process. I also want to thank the fabulous staff in the Climate Justice Project, Valerie and Emer, whose names were mentioned really regularly in the breakout room that I was in terms of how supportive they've been to the whole process. So I want to pay particular thanks to them, but also to the wider MYCI team, because you know, you'll know yourselves, none of these things happen just by the actions of one or two people. So today we've been really reliant on Leo, who's done all the technological stuff for us. Daniel Meister, communications manager, is here. Valerie Duffy, who manages our global youth work program. Alison Fox, who manages all of our programs, and everybody has input into this. So just want to say a very sincere thank you to them, but particularly I want to thank each and every one of you who have taken the time to join us, who have expressed an interest, who have fed into the breakout rooms, who fed back into plenary, where we've really had meaningful conversations, and those conversations, I think, will very much continue. I have a very strong sense that we're at the start of something, by no means at an end. And as I said, the process in terms of engaging in climate justice to the point where we're able to sign up to the charter, I think is really important as well. Partnership came through as well in a very strong way in terms of building solidarity between organisations internally in the sector, some who are a bit further on in their discussions and their development around climate justice, with others who are only starting, but also broadening it, you know, outside of the sector, and the recognition that there are other organisations that have, you know, significant contributions to make to this discussion. The Padlet is going to remain open until Friday for any other comments or any thoughts that you may have after today, when you've had the opportunity to reflect on it. And we will also share the Padlet with the people who have signed up. I hope that is, I mean, the important thing really is about the importance of joining. You know, each of you in your own organizations considering joining this community of practice, you know, and adopting the charter as we commence that, you know, that journey together in the interests of all of us, but particularly the young people of today and future generations. If there's anything I've forgotten, do feel free to jump in. Okay, I don't see any hands and I'm not getting any messages in the chat. So at 11:58, I just want to say again, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. The charter is also in the chat, but you'll also be sent a link with it. So better to get it lots of times than not at all. And we look forward to working with you in the months and years ahead as we progress the Climate Justice Charter. Thank you very much.